So this morning's class, we're going to start in a seated position. So I'm going to use the block. It's not absolutely necessary, but it does make life a little bit more comfortable. To bring the heels in towards the groin, you could cross the ankles if you wished. You could also sit on the knees if that felt more comfortable. The benefit of this is that we get a chance to open the groins and the hips together. Take a little bit of movement through the pelvis. So just a gentle sway, just rocking around from sitting bone to sitting bone. And then starting to draw the spine up out of the pelvis in as neutral a plane as possible. And just let the hands sit wherever it feels appropriate. You could close the eyes if that makes you feel more comfortable. So try and keep the head in line with the rest of the body. On the inhale, allow yourself to breathe in through your belly, all the way into your collarbones. On the exhale, just settling back down, drawing the belly in. These are slow and deliberate breaths, giving us an opportunity to slow our mind and our breath together. Let the eyes open. Take a breath in. As you begin to exhale, just going to drop the chin towards the chest and stretch out the back of the neck. So sitting upright still, letting the head hang fully. On the inhale, we'll start some neck circles. So we're just looking out towards that left shoulder and then up the wall. Across the ceiling, try not to lean back too much with the neck. Over to the other side, down that wall, just letting the eyes run down towards the floor. And then rolling all the way back from the shoulder into the center of the chest. We'll take the breath to the opposite side, so traveling to the right and rolling up. Hopefully, the neck feels like this is just running nice and smoothly. Move around again. We'll come back into the center again. Allow ourselves to lift the neck. We'll take the hands up towards the sky above the shoulders. Trying to relax the shoulders down a little bit. So the arms lift, not necessarily the shoulders. Using the exhale to turn to the left and bring the hands down. We use the breath to come back up and bring ourselves to the center. And so over to the opposite side. Now we'll come up and take it across to the final side. And let the hands come back into the center. We're going to move down onto our spine. You can allow yourself to use the block behind the back of the head if that feels good. And knees high, hands behind. Just going to roll the spine gently down, keeping the chin in towards the chest. Allow yourself to peel the spine gently down to the floor. Wiggle the shoulders out a little bit and slide the feet and the heels along the mat to the front end. And try and lengthen the body out, so kind of wriggling the hips and the tailbone away a little bit more. Shoulders into the ground. Just taking the hands by the side of the body, palms up for a moment. Yourself to relax a couple of breaths. Take the next breath in. Rotate your thighs into the center line so the toes come to touch. Now slide the right knee in towards your body. Take your hands around the shin. And letting that knee sink down towards your right armpit a little, up towards the side of the ribs. We're going to see if we can keep the left foot with the toes pointing up to the sky. And that feeling of a little bit of internal rotation. Foot drop carefully, closing towards the bottom, and slide the heel out. So the two legs are together. Again, we rotate the thighs in, so those big toes to start to touch. And we'll slide the left heel in. And take the hands around the shin again, just let that sink. Also maintaining the length and the right leg and that little internal rotation. And we'll let the foot come to the floor close to the bottom and then draw the right leg in so both heels are in towards us. So we'll take the arms out wide like a crucifix. We'll shimmy the hips over to the left and let both legs roll down over to the right side, keeping the shoulders to the ground. A little bit of creaking and cracking and popping in the spine will be normal if it happens. We'll try and let the bottom leg relax down to the floor. One more full breath. I'll use the inhale to lift back up. Shimmy the hips over to the right, sliding the legs down to the left. Heading back to the center. So realign the spine and immediately take the left leg to the sky, flexing the foot, turning the toes outwards. We're going to bend the knee, bring the ankle to the outside of that right thigh, keeping the foot flexed. Let the left knee travel forwards for another breath towards the front of the mat, and then shimmy the hips over towards the left. Allow the legs to roll down in unison over towards the right. So trying to get the left foot flat to the floor and the knee pointing towards the ceiling. So you're pushing your knee towards the front of the mat a little bit. So you feel some quite decent stretch around the outside of the top of the hip. And let ourselves lift out of that. Bring the hips back into square and untangle the legs. Give the foot and the ankle a little shake out. Allow yourself to immediately take the right leg up and turn the toes out as you breathe in. On the exhale, bringing the ankle to the outside of the thigh again. Remember to keep the foot flexed. Let the knee travel as far forward as you can for a couple of breaths. And then we shimmy the hips to the right. And let the legs go down to the left. You might notice some differences between how it feels on one side or the position that you're finally end up in. And that's okay. Bodies are not symmetrical. Those differences are things that we can embrace in our body. But awareness is obviously going to allow us to understand how our body moves a bit more effectively. That makes it a bit easier to get into some poses when you understand your own body better. And take a last breath here and lift the legs back again. Bring the spine back into the center and give that right leg a little shake out. Bring the foot down. Keeping the feet fairly close together. We'll take the left leg up. And this time we're going to cross the thigh over. And then bring the foot down. See if we can wrap it underneath the calf of the opposite leg. As we bring the knees up over the hips, drawing the belly to the spine and the shins parallel to the floor. So once you've got your eagle legs in place, we'll take the eagle arms to their conclusion. We're going to take the left arm up and the right arm over the top. Bend at the elbow. Let the elbows sink in towards your chest. Try and roll your shoulders down to the floor. You can rest your hands on your forehead, your nose, or your chin, wherever they happen to be. Try and keep the knees over the hips and the shins parallel to the floor. You can feel the strength of your abdominal muscles working to hold you in this position. And then we'll release everything out. Take the legs out towards the sky and the arms out wide. Toes pointing for a breath. And then bend the knees and let the feet come back down to the floor. And take the right leg up high. Cross the thigh over and wrap the foot around. So it's basically we want to get to a point where there's no space between the thighs. We get as close to locking the foot underneath the calf as we can. Sometimes you can do it on both sides, sometimes not. You take the right arm up and the left arm over this time, bending the elbows and drawing them down towards the ribs. Shoulders down to the floor. That's it. 2 more breaths. And then we can release out of that, taking the legs high again. And take the arms directly above the chest and the feet hopefully directly above the hips. Now alternate the legs and arms. So we're going to take the right arm, left leg down towards the floor. Try not to bounce into the ground and bring them back up. Your best to keep the legs as straight as possible. And the arms as well. If you can, lengthen out through the digits and the toes. Keep your lower back pulled down towards the ground and your belly into the spine to support. Try to keep that breath smooth and slow. Find the body movements with the breath. Okay. Come up for the last time. Allow ourselves to bend the knees and bring the feet back down. We'll take the arms out wide again. Bring the knees together, but walk the feet out wide into little teepee legs. And then allow both legs to roll over to the left. So you come onto the side edges of the feet. Try and press the top knee a little down to the ground, just a few pounds of pressure to bring it down a couple of inches or an inch or so closer to the floor. Try and relax your bottom leg at the same time. It's pretty tricky to have one leg working, especially into a direction that is not very natural, and then letting the opposite leg completely relax. Allow yourself to differentiate one leg from the other. Bring them back up and realign if you need to, feet or spine. Allow yourself to roll to the side. Again, pressing down through the top knee just a little into the floor, that area. Now bring the knees back up. Move the block out of from behind the head if you were using that. So we're very flat to the ground now. And draw the knees in towards the chest. Just wriggle the spine out to get the back as flat to the floor as you can. So your hands, not quite underneath your bottom, but locked into the side of your body. So your thumbs are sort of underneath the flesh of your cheeks. And then with those elbows and forearms pressing into the floor, and extend the legs back up towards the sky, pointing the toes or squeezing the thighs in. Keeping the neck long and the shoulders pressed down and the belly drawn in. One leg at a time, just taking the left leg down almost to the floor, and then bringing it back up. And crossing over to the opposite side. Do your best to keep the legs straight, powering out through the toes, both the lifted and the active leg. Now draw the knees in towards the body. Allow yourself to take your hands on top of the knees. The knees are wide, toes together. And on your exhale, draw the belly in and tuck the tailbone towards you so it starts to lift from the ground a little bit. The inhale, let it come back down to the ground. So doing our best not to pull on the arms. The hands and the knees are really for a reference point. Slowly lift up and the way back down. The last little squeeze. And bring the feet to the ground, close to the bottom. We'll take a breath and roll onto the right side using the hands to press into the floor. And we'll slowly lift our way back up to sitting. Now take a breath, just cross the ankles over, roll onto the hands and knees, and we'll keep the knees wide and let ourselves come into child's pose. So just sitting gently back, taking the hands out towards the front of the mat so that the elbows are lifted off of the ground, but the shoulders are kind of relaxed, so we're not stretching fully as far forward as we can. Actually trying to let the shoulders grow out to the side a little bit, and maybe lifting the armpits up towards the sky. Side up. When you do that, you're going to feel that your shoulder blades are retracting in towards each other a little as well. That work, but strong through the shoulders so you can breathe into your belly. Lift back up onto all fours. Bring the knees gently back underneath, and we'll move slowly into down dog. So making sure that you have a little bit of a gap between your heels and the floor. The feet are hip distance apart and parallel. The heels hide behind your ankles. We're trying to lift the hips up and back. Let the chest sink to the ground. The hands flat to the floor. Now, some people do like to walk their legs out. Quite often I do, but sometimes it's nice to be steady in the pose. So work with instinctively what feels right for you today. Take one more breath here, and then slowly take the feet as wide as the mat. Keeping in the down dog shape, walk the hands gently back. Bring the heels to touch the floor. And taking the left hand away from the ground, reach out underneath you towards the right outside ankle. You're twisting your body underneath. Pressing back into that bottom hand, lifting the hips up and back. Straightening the legs as much as you can. We'll take one more breath. And then we'll bring the hands to the floor and cross over to the opposite side. You can definitely feel the change in the muscle fibers in the hamstrings, where the emphasis of the stretches from the middle belly part of the muscle right to the tendon ends can be felt in this pose. We'll bring the hands back to the floor. Walk the fingers into the very front of the mat and bring the feet back into that hip distance stance. We'll scissor the right leg to the sky. Then draw the knee in towards the toes as we exhale and come through to the front of the mat. We'll drop the back heel down onto the floor to practice a warrior two, bringing the knee over the ankle. Floating the left arm forwards, we'll lift slowly up until we take the arms out into our warrior two. So hopefully that was a good landing. I'll bring the hands above the head and down to the floor. Step ourselves back into the down dog. We'll scissor the left leg high. Draw the knee in towards the chest and bring the foot through to the front of the mat. Drop the back heel in. Hands alongside, little lift. Right arm floats out in line with the body, and then the whole thing comes up slowly on the exhale. Inhale high. Rotate gently out towards the front of the mat, down to the floor. Stepping back into the down dog. We'll scissor the right leg to the sky. Draw the knee in towards the chest and take the foot this time to the outside of that right hand. Keeping the back knee lifted and pressing out through the heel. The right hand comes up for the twist. Squeezing the knee lightly into the body on that front leg. Hands come to the floor. Step back into our down dog. the scissor, the left leg. Draw the knee in towards the chest. Bring the foot to the outside of the hand. Allow ourselves to lift into the twist again. Left side opening up. Hand comes to the floor. Back into our down dog. We'll walk the hands through the toes. Come into a forward bend. And bring hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift up, soft knees and a flat back. Walking into the front of the mat. We'll have the feet about hip distance apart. Bring the hands in towards your heart. Just soften your knees over your toes. Come into chair pose. So we're going to sit gently back down as far as we feel comfortable to take it. Keeping the weight into the chair pose, we slowly shift the weight over to that left foot. Slide the right foot back into lunge. And then drop the heel in and open up into our warrior two. So be careful on the placement of that back foot. Ideally, it's pointing 45 degrees out to the side. So you have to think about where it lands. Bring the hands up towards the sky. Take a little breath. Allow yourself to bring the hands behind your back. Draw the hands down towards the floor as you squeeze the elbows together. And see if you can lean out over the front thigh, trying to follow the line of your back leg. And make a concerted effort to draw the hands towards that back foot and press the back foot into the floor. And turn your chest as much as possible, excuse me, a little burp there, to the long side of the mat. Now we'll release back into warrior two. And turn the palm on the front hand, and we're going to take reverse warrior, wrapping the rear hand around the body, and stretching out over towards the back of the mat. We'll come back into warrior two. Take a little breath, allows us to lengthen out over the front thigh. Bring the hand down towards the floor, and as you do, straighten the front leg into your triangle pose. You can brace the bottom hand into the inside of the shin bone a little bit to turn the chest around. Press the hips a little over towards the right side of the mat. Both feet pressing down very strongly. Now take the top arm. Start to send the palm forwards and the arm out towards the front of the mat. As it gets in line with your body, take a breath and then rotate your chest as you bend into your front knee and bring both hands down to the inside of this front foot. We'll walk the fingers from there to the long side of the mat. Allow yourself to have a little wriggle and turn the toes in and the heels out whilst you're up on the fingertips. When you're ready, we're going to take a breath. Press down through the feet, lift the hips high, and let the body swing low. Just trying to squeeze the elbows together a little bit, keeping the hands on the floor about shoulder distance apart. Try to avoid bringing the chin in towards your chest. Just let the crown of your head hang down towards the floor. Get the weight even in the feet. Be conscious whether you're rolling into your toes or your heels on the outside edges. One more breath. And we'll lift up on the exhale. and turn the heels in, toes out. Walk the hands towards the back of the mat. We're going to come down into a ninja squat. So we're going to lift the heel that's underneath the body and pivot on the heel that's out in front. The toes pointing out to the sky. Try to get this muscle on this top thigh to engage by pressing out through your heel and drawing the hip back into the hip socket at the same time. Allow yourself to lift right up onto your fingertips. And if you're able to bring your hands into your heart, if you feel confident enough to do that, you can do. Just depends really on how you're managing with your foot and having the heel pressing into the sitting bones or as close as you can. You're going to move slowly and low to the front end of the mat. So just moving gently across, sitting gently in, just waiting for the knees to have a little bit of time to kind of get used to the idea of where they are. Allow yourself to lengthen and draw on the front leg that's out to the side, coming onto the fingertips. And then we'll bring the hands to the floor and spin the hands around towards the front of the mat as we come back into lunge. Take a little breath. Allow us to lift into a warrior 3, taking the right leg high. Fingertips stay on the ground though, so it's the slightly easier version. We try and square the hips to the floor and press down through the bottom leg. We'll take one more breath and then soften the front knee. Draw the right knee towards the body. Place it down onto the ground and let us sink into that forward bend. Bring hands onto the hips, soft knees and a flat back to lift up. Bring hands in towards the heart again and sink into the knees over toes. And gently back down into our chair. We'll shift the weight into the right foot. Slide the left foot back into the deep lunge. Drop the heel in and open into our warrior 2. Making any adjustments that you need. Hands come high as we breathe in. And then we drop them just behind the back, interlacing the hands, just squeezing the shoulders lightly together. We lean out, following the line of that back leg. And draw the hands towards the back foot as we press down. So really feeling like you're pushing away with both legs. We're avoiding fitting into joints. We're using the muscles. I'll move slowly back into our warrior 2. Turn the palm on the front hand and wrap around into that reverse warrior. Slowly back into our warrior 2. I'm going to lengthen out over the front thigh and bring the hand downwards as we straighten the front leg into our triangle pose. We'll have the hands lifted off the floor a little bit, just pressing onto, as we said, the inside of that shin. The body is lifted. The legs are working hard to keep us upright. One more breath. And then turn the top palm, lengthen the hand out. So it feels like it's almost in line with your ear. And then roll your chest down as you soften the front knee and bring the hands onto the inside of the front foot. Take the little walk around to the long side, turning the heels in. Sorry, heels out, toes in. Get that right one day. When you feel ready, allow yourself to hinge gently down. Now, some people will be down a lot further than others. The idea is to keep the belly drawn in and trying to get a sense of lifting the hips to the sky and pressing down through the feet evenly. Just take a little bit of work mentally to attach yourself to the feet and the surface area that's pressing down. Just check that the weight is even through the whole of the foot, pressing into the floor. We'll take one more breath here. And lift. We're going to walk the hands as we turn the heels in towards the back of the mat and come into that ninja squat again. So easing our way down nice and slowly. Fingertips to the balance, hands into the heart. We get to the point where the spine is best we can be neutral above the pelvis. Slow and low to the front end of the mat. We'll walk the fingers around to the front end of the mat. Into the lunge. Hands come forwards a little bit. Step gently into the warrior three. Squaring the hips. Again on the fingertips. Trying to lengthen out 2 straight legs. As straight as they can be. Now soften the front knee. Draw the left foot down. Just land with the feet hopefully in parallel into that deep forward bend. I'll bring the hands over the hips again. Soften the knees a little as we let ourselves lift up. We'll take the hands high. A breath in. Ease our way down to the floor. Take a breath. Step the right foot back. Ready for warrior two for the lift. Hands alongside the body. Inhale and draw our way back up. Float the hands high and out towards the front of the mat. Take a little breath and step back into our down dog. And forwards into the plank, breathing in. Using the exhale for half plank. Elbows into ribs. Bootlaces change. Strong legs. And we inhale on the way up. Exhale over the toes or stepping the feet into your down dog. And scissoring your right leg. Drawing the knee in towards the body. Into lunge. Strong back leg, nice and low. Push off the back toes into that forward bend. Hands onto the hips, let ourselves lift on the side to do. Inhale high, and through the heart. And exhale down to the floor. Take the left foot back into a lunge. Drop the heel in, ready for warrior two for the lift. Exhale on the way through. Inhale high and down to the floor we go. Stepping this time into our down dog. And the forwards into the plank as we breathe in. Using the exhale to come forwards into that half plank. Bootlaces change. Inhale on the way up for up dog. Shoulders always roll back deep. Move into down dog. When you're ready, scissor your left leg as your breath comes in. in towards the chest and through for the lunge. Taking the exhale into the front of the mat. Hands onto the hips, let ourselves lift. Bring the hands forwards, interlace the fingers a little. Ease into a back bend. Now I'm actually going to press the hips back a little bit. And release the hands out to the side, down behind. Interlace the fingers, shoulders still squeezing together. Hinging forwards into soft knees and down to the floor. And letting the hands hang over towards the front of the mat. Take a breath, ease the hands down to the floor. Take a little breath and come up into a half forward fold. Fold yourself in deep on your exhale. Bring your hands onto your hips to let yourself lift. Bring the hands in towards the heart again. Soften the knees over the toes. And shift the weight into the right leg, lifting the left. Going to turn the knee out to the side a little bit. Bring the ankle bone to the outside of that thigh. Sit down deep. So familiar pose to us, but just in a different plane. The foot is flexed. Press down through the shin and the knee towards the floor a little bit on the raised leg. Try and keep the hips square to the front of the mat. Let yourselves lift slowly back up to the floor. Remember, soften the knees again. We'll go to the final side. So there's a little shift. Lift, the knee goes out to the side a little bit to bring it into place. And then we sit down as low as we dare. And we can lift from there as well. Turn the hands high again as we breathe in. We're coming down to the floor to do some floor work. So hinging down to the ground. We'll step back into down dog to start with. And then come into plank and just lower the knees down to the ground. And we'll begin our floor work with some nice gentle cat-cows. So just rolling the shoulders back, tailbone to the sky, exhaling, rounding the spine, and getting that nice strong sense of spreading the shoulders out. We'll come to neutral. Tuck the toes of the right foot underneath and slide the leg back. As you press down into that left shin, you can lift the right leg away and take the left hand out in front as well. Going to bend your right knee foot to the sky. Take the left hand out, keeping your eyes on your fingers. So let your body travel around with you to spot your foot. And then once you've connected, allow yourself to press out through the shin. And keep that rotation in the spine to the side of the mat. We'll release everything back out. Bring it to the floor. And then we'll tuck the toes on the left foot. We try and keep the pubic bone over the center line of the mat the whole time. We lift. And take the right arm out as we bend the left knee. And then just watching the fingers, we keep our eyes on the prize, literally, back there. And then allow yourself to press away, down through the shin at the same time. Lengthen out. Bring our hands and knees back to the floor. Sit down onto the heels, sitting upright. Roll those shoulders around into nice big circles. Letting the spine be free to move as well. And then move the opposite way. Take the hands forwards again to the front of the mat. And allow yourself to pivot your left foot out to the side as you bring your left hand more in line with your left knee on the mat. Slide your right foot back, drop the heel in, and allow yourself to lift into a baby side plank. You still want to press down into the floor with the knee and the hand and try and take as much weight out of that bottom leg as you can. If you're able to, maybe just moving the knee away and hooking your foot behind the other foot. So one foot is flat to the floor, one foot is on the side, and you lift the hips as high as you can. You want to make sure your hand is underneath your shoulder. And try and keep your head in line with the rest of your body as you lift your hips high. Strong legs pressing out. Bring the hands back down to the floor. Ooh, knees back down to the floor. We'll do the whole thing again to the opposite side. So the hand moves in on the right as the right foot goes out. The left foot goes back down the center line. The heel drops in. Hips press a little towards the long side of the mat as you lift. That'll help with your balance. You start to press down. Start to take some of the weight. If you feel the need to lift your foot away and tuck it into the two-leg version, you can do, but it's perfectly okay to stay on that one knee, just lifting the weight gently out of the knee. It gives you a chance to get used to load bearing in the wrists and the shoulders and the elbows without committing fully to the pose. So as we stay here for a few breaths, those abdominal muscles and your obliques are starting to work pretty hard to hold us up. We'll come back down to the floor. Whew. Let the knees come down to the ground. We'll move the feet out to the side and just roll gently back. We'll take the block and place that underneath the bottom just for a quick Janu Shirshasana to each side. So I'll bring the right heel in, keeping the foot flexed, pressing the heel into the groin a little bit on the side of the thigh. This bent knee presses down and out. We square the hips to the front of the mat. Turn this thigh up towards the sky so the toes point upwards as well. Put a little bend in the knee if you wish. Take your hands onto the shin. Allow yourself to hinge forwards at the hips. Forward and down deep. And we're going to take the hands out on top of the toes. So one hand on top of the other. And we're actually going to draw the arms towards us and draw the chest at the same time towards the front of the mat. So even with the little bend in the knee, you're going to feel that the muscles in the legs are very activated. And you feel that deep into the muscle fibers. We'll take one more breath, keeping the belly in. And then we'll release and let ourselves come back up. We'll take it to the opposite side. So starting with the feet together and then bringing the heel in, squaring up, rotating the thigh in a little bend in the knee. Inhale up, hinging over, hands out on top. Draw the hands back and the chest forwards. And then we can release from there as well. We'll take the right foot underneath and out to the left hip as we come into a seated twist, bringing the left leg over. Going to bring the right arm through and out towards the left side as we turn the body, keeping both sitting bones on the ground and the body as upright as we can. So we draw the belly in a little bit, tilt the pelvis forwards, press down into the foot of the raised leg. Rotate that rear shoulder around to the right side of the mat. And we can release from there as well. Untangle the legs. Take ourselves around to the opposite side. And then release. Lengthen the legs out. I'm going to come down to the floor. I'm going to move the block out of the way for the moment. We're going to take a couple of repetitions of moving into bridge pose just to loosen the back up a little bit. So these don't need to be the highest bridges in the world. I'm not going for that. And we haven't really warmed the spine up in that way much for it. So just going to keep it nice and easy. Hands alongside the body, palms down, roll the shoulders underneath a little. Nice long neck, heels underneath knees and about hip distance apart. Heels are very slightly turned out. You'll start to draw the belly in, tailbone to left. And as you find your hips moving away from the floor, you can press a little more into the legs. And you're just bringing the hips up really to the line between your knees and your shoulders. Press them down through the arms so they feel active and connected. We'll take another breath and then just allow the spine to roll gently down to the floor. Hopefully the legs feel like they've done a lot of work, a lot of lifting, so they'll be a bit tired and a bit shaky. That's perfectly normal. We'll take another breath in. So to lift on the exhale. Try to draw the knees towards the front of the mat a little bit as you press down through the feet, pressing the arms into the ground and keeping that body nice and square, knees, hips, shoulders. Use your exhale to come back down. And then we'll take a final lift up. Using the exhale to start the work off as we lift up. Moving our way back down again. Now I want to take the block and place that back underneath the back of my head. So that's more of a personal preference for Shavasana. And let the hands come down to the sides of the body, palms up, with enough room to let a bit of air and heat move around the armpits. Use the toes to walk the feet slowly out to the corner edges of the mat, and then finally slide the heels along the ground. So we keep the spine stress-free as long as we can. Then the toes roll out to the side, the legs open, the palms relax, facing to the sky, the shoulders sinking to the floor, the eyes closed. We drop the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. And then just breathe, long, slow. Feel the breath moving around the body. Begin to stretch those fingers and toes. Breathe a little deeper and allow wrists and ankles to wriggle around. When you're ready and feel your nervous system is connected back enough for you to stretch out in any way that feels logical, allow yourself to move gently and slowly. And carefully slide the heels in towards your body. Let 1 knee at a time come in for the softest and simplest and gentlest of hugs. Allow yourself to rock on the spine, wall the hips, circle the knees, whatever feels good, as long as it's light and easy. And take another longer breath in and then use that to exhale down to the right side. Take a breath as we land and use the hands to press into the floor to roll gently back up. Come into a seated posture of choice and sit tall. Bring hands in towards your heart as you breathe in, closing your eyes. Use your solo exhale to drop your chin to your chest. Draw your belly to your spine and allow a bow to form. Simply closing your practice for this morning. On the inhale, letting the spine lift again with the breath. Letting the head lift and the eyes open. Namaste. Thank you for joining. Hope you enjoyed and see you again on the mat soon.